You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. It is always free on Mondays. Follow me on Twitter at Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Subscribe on YouTube, where we are live after every single game the rest of the way. Today on the show, Nick Viall, Packers superfan and longtime friend of the show, who just did Good Morning Football. Locked On Packers, been all over that show lately. He joins us to talk about the drama with Aaron Rodgers, his thoughts on Jordan Love, who he was very excited to see play, the defense and his state with the Packers right now. And that is going to be, I think, a very fun conversation. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Before we do, we did get a press conference from Matt LaFleurs, who said some things about Jordan Love and where he felt the good and the bad was. Just off the top, though, before that part of it, because I want to spend the top of the show talking about Jordan Love. He also said Eric Stokes is not expected to be out long-term. Same deal with Kenny Clark. That is not the same as saying they're going to play this week, but they're not expected to be seriously injured. Still, we don't know when Zadarius Smith is coming back. We don't know when Jair Alexander is coming back. So defensively, there are going to be some question marks there. He did also say that the plan is to activate David Bakhtiari on Wednesday. Activated does not mean is going to play for the Packers this week. He will be activated. He will be part of the active roster, but that doesn't mean he will be active on game day necessarily. Who knows? Maybe the decision of whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to play will factor into that. We do not know about that either. The soonest that can happen is Saturday. Rodgers needs to be asymptomatic and COVID negative to get back with the team. I don't think that it is better than 50-50. Aaron Rodgers plays on Sunday, not just because he has to be negative, but because he has to be asymptomatic as well. And we just don't know what his status is right now with his health. And it has taken even professional athletes longer to clear this virus than 10 days in a lot of cases. So AJ Dillon was out a month. So that part of it is difficult to predict. That could mean Jordan Love gets a second start. So what did Matt LaFleurs say about Jordan Love? Well, he took responsibility for the game plan. He took responsibility for not having better answers to the zero pressures that the all-out blitzes, a zero blitz, and not having a better plan in general for the pressure that Kansas City was able to create. Steve Spagnuolo blitzed Jordan Love over 50% of his dropbacks, according to Pro Football Focus, and they created a ton of pressure in this game. And it is not all, or even mostly on Jordan Love to have better answers when in a lot of cases they had some answers in protection and they blew those protections. And Matt LaFleurs, he talked about that. He said there were times when the Packers had the guys to block up the front and they blew it. Royce Newman, 6 pressures allowed via Pro Football Focus. That is a dreadful game. I expect John Runyon Jr. to be the starting right guard when everyone gets back. I think that makes the most sense. Royce Newman has just not been good. Terrific in camp. Played well in the preseason, won that right guard job, just has not been good enough to date in regular season action. I think he can be a very good player. He's just not there yet. And some of it is mental. This offensive line has really ham and egged it They have found ways with baling wire and sheet metal to, build a fence around the quarterback, so to speak. But there have still been these lapses, even when Aaron Rodgers is out there. It's not bad protection calls, because even when Rodgers is out there making sure everyone's on the same page, everyone is in the right protection and the right play, they've been busting these protections. I think Adam Stenavich is a very good coach, but this is something that they need to get locked up. And I do think just getting David Bakhtiari back and getting Elton Jenkins back at left guard immediately helps. Immediately helps, because I also think it moves John Runyon Jr. to right guard. He's been the best guard of the Packers guards so far this season. It allows Lucas Patrick to stay at center, which is by far his best position. And then you can get Josh Myers back and just fold him in whenever he's healthy. And we don't know when that's going to be. Had a procedure on his knee. It still seems like he's at least a couple weeks away from being ready to come back, which is not ideal, because you want him to be getting these reps so that come playoff time, when he's going to see the Tampa Bay defense and Vita Vea, that he's going to be ready. When they're going to see Raheem Morris and the Rams defense with Von Miller and Aaron Donald and all those guys up front, he's not going to see Jalen Ramsey even if he's going to be on the field. That he's ready. Missing those reps now is a problem. It cannot be overstated how big an issue the protection was to what Jordan Love was and wasn't able to do. That is just the baseline starting point. And JT O'Sullivan, former Packer, by the way, did a great video to the QB School, is a terrific resource for anyone who wants to learn more about quarterback play. I learn something every time I watch those videos. I think they're great. His pre-draft video on Jordan Love was some of the best stuff. He consistently does an awesome job. I highly recommend you go watch it. But he pointed out how consistently the protection let Love down and not the other way around. Now, there were some opportunities where he had some throws that he could have made that he didn't make. No doubt about it. On rewatch, though, those plays were fewer than I think, someone like Troy Aikman was saying live on the game. He just had no chances on some of these plays where he's hitting the top of his drop and he's got color flashing in his face. He's got someone barreling down on him. And no one is going to play quarterback at a high level in a situation like that. I made this joke because, Aaron Nagler, I did every throw on a tweet stream, and it was, Nagler was making the joke that Love looked more comfortable deep in his own end zone than Matthew Stafford, who panicked and threw a terrible interception against the Titans. And I pointed out that Jordan Love had a better PFF grade against pressure than Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is a longtime veteran player in a very good scheme with a lot of great weapons and a good offensive line. And when he was pressured because the front was getting beat, he struggled. This is a thing that happens to quarterbacks. Were there times when Jordan Love had clean pockets and made some poor throws? Yes, by and large, I thought he played very well from a clean pocket. And in the second half especially, he started to play in better rhythm. They protected him better. And when he was able to get protection, he was able to fire some really impressive throws in there. The touchdown is the big one. They beat the blitz on fourth down. He makes an accurate throw with a guy in his face. I mean, escaping pressure. You saw the flashes of talent. And I think the people saying, there were no flashes. There were flashes. No doubt there were flashes. The consistency, though, is what wins you games in the NFL. To be a great quarterback or even a good quarterback, you have to be consistent. And he wasn't. Now, does one game tell us anything about Jordan Love? I don't think it tells us very much. And I was talking about this with Mike Renner on Twitter. He asked me, if Love had been good, would we have had big takeaways from this game? And I said, yes, because the baseline expectation for these young quarterbacks is that they don't play well. Now, I had higher expectations for Jordan Love than he performed because I expected Matt LaFleurs to have a different game plan. And I said on this program, I expect this offense to look like week 1 last year against Minnesota. Jet motion, end arounds, and RPOs, and really creative stuff. They did some creative things, to be sure. I loved the two back look with Randall Cobb on the fast, swing motion with a running back opposite. Two guys in the backfield. You're creating major problems for the defense. To use Randall Cobb in that way was really smart. They ran a play on one of the boot actions, Randall Cobb as the F, sort of H-back type. And they ran that naked, and they got Josiah DeGuara for a first down. They made some adjustments. The sprint out route to Devontae Adams, which they hit twice. They hit it on third down, then they hit it on fourth down. They made the adjustments eventually. It just took them too long to get there. And I wonder how, with a full week of preparation, that changes. I was a little, I think, optimistic about how Jordan Love would play in this game because I thought the position would be better. And I thought the offensive line would play better than they did. I thought that the game plan would make it more advantageous. I thought the more opportunities, let's say, for Devontae Adams from the slot on in-breakers. They barely threw to the middle of the field, despite the fact that the Chiefs vacated the middle of the field a bunch on these zero blitzes. They were not able to get to anything quick. I mean, if you see the all-out pressure, why are you not, with Devontae Adams in the slot, plenty, why are you not running some sort of in-breaker with no safety in the middle of the field? I mean, Russell Wilson kills teams with stuff like that. And if you know it's coming, if it's 3rd and 8 or more, you know they're going to send mega pressure. If I know it's coming, Matt LaFleur knows it's coming, Jordan Love knows it's coming. I'm not special for knowing it's coming. They know. And they weren't able to consistently get to the right plays. And so when Matt LaFleur says we didn't know if Jordan Love was ready, that's not coach speak. He didn't. These guys need to play. The idea that Jordan Love was sitting for a year and watching Aaron Rodgers benefits him. It benefits him, but marginally. You've got to play. You've got to play. And he just hasn't. And this was a nice opportunity to see him in a pretty low risk situation, a game that they really should have won anyway, despite the fact that he did not light the world on fire. Maybe another game, he can show some improvement if they get the Seahawks with Love this week. Maybe you're in a position at the end of the season where you're locked into a seed and you can play Love in a game with low stakes, and you can game plan for Love and you can see all kinds of things. That's what the Chiefs did with Mahomes. They only saw him play once, really. Now, he got a full preseason. He got a full rookie offseason and then got that full next offseason. But also, they weren't pushing out Aaron Rodgers. They traded Alex Smith. Big damn difference. So that all has to be taken into account here as well. The TLDR of this is Love played better than I think the live reaction was. And I did not come out of this game and enter the NFL discourse on Monday going, the quarterback we should be talking about is Jordan Love. I came out of it going, the quarterback we should be talking about is Patrick Mahomes, who looks broken right now, who was held to his worst output as a pro by this Packers defense that didn't have three of its best, really its three best players, Zadarius Smith, Jair Alexander, and Kenny Clark. Now, Rashawn Gary is getting in that mix. Devondre Campbell certainly getting in that mix. Darnell Savage, I think at his peak, can be in that mix. But for the Packers to do that to Patrick Mahomes with all his guys, this Chiefs team is a mess. They're a mess. So I don't want to make it seem like I think that Love was great. I don't. He wasn't. But I don't think this is like, okay, his career is over. I mean, I heard some of that. Loud voices, people with big platforms going, hey, it just looks like a starting quarterback. It's like, do you remember Justin Fields' first start? Do you remember Joe Burrow's first start? Do you remember the first time we saw Aaron Rodgers get extended playing time as a Green Bay Packer? The first two times, in fact, in 2005 against the Ravens, he was terrible. 2006 against the Patriots, he was terrible and got hurt. So it's just like, oh my God, what did the Packers do? Drafting this guy who can't play, hasn't played for 2 years, isn't helping them win games now. Is this sounding familiar? Of course, I'm not saying that Love is going to be Aaron Rodgers, but even someone who eventually became Aaron Rodgers was bad early. The baseline expectations for quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, is that they are bad. And any play above that is gravy. Let's just remember that when we're trying to evaluate these things. And let's also evaluate them only on the things that are actually in their control. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Built Bar. I love Thanksgiving, all the good food, the treats, plenty of them. Maybe you want a yummy dessert, but you don't want all of the calories and the sugar. You don't want your stomach to churn, to hurt. It's the perfect time for a Built Bar. Built Bar is the new holiday dessert. Feast on something delicious and feel good about it. One slice of pie, upwards of 300 calories, and that's on the low end. Most Built Bars are only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. You know what you could do? You know what I'd love to do? My family, we love to get a Thanksgiving workout in. You get your Thanksgiving workout in, you get your Built Bar. That gets you ready. That gets you ready to eat because you're putting something good in your body. You're fueling your body every time you eat a Built Bar because not only are they delicious, and they are, they're low calorie, low carb, low fat, high protein. What more could you be looking for? Something delicious that's actually good for your body. That is rare. How many things can you say that about? Not very many. New surprises all month, limited time flavors arriving at built.com regularly. So check the site often. There is nothing like Built Bar Black Friday. Mark your calendar. Black Friday will be a huge event with all sorts of surprises. Go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right. You've seen him on Good Morning Football, but you heard him first on the Locked On Packers podcast. Hopefully you did. Anyway, Nick Viall is with us now. And Nick, I felt like it has been too long since we've had a check-in with you about where this team is and what's going on. And we had talked about getting you on before all of the Aaron Rodgers stuff happened.
Yeah.
And then all the Aaron Rodgers stuff happened.
It's been something. Can I ask you a question though?
Sure.
Does any of this surprise you?
Oof. Okay, so I have not said this on the show. I was surprised when Aaron Rodgers said back in whatever it was, July, August, that whatever he said, I'm immunized, and we all took that to mean I'm vaccinated. And you know, we can quibble over whether or not that was the prudent thing to do or not. But that was more surprising to me than what has happened.
Yeah, I remember when you said immunized, and I just remember thinking, that's just such a weird way to say it.
Yeah.
And then there was a thought to myself.
We might have talked about it in DM.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's and I don't even mean necessarily. Because obviously, you know, the vaccination stuff, you know, sadly, it's a political saying, but you know, it's, you know, I don't want to get into, you know, that person. I mean, it's your show, but I'm sorry. Are we surprised that he tried to argue semantics about whether he was deliberately deceiving? You know, people are just like, did he lie? Did he not lie? And like, what he was clearly deliberately deceitful. Now, you can discuss whether like, oh, well, like he didn't want, you know, cancel culture or whatever to come after him and blah, blah,
right.
blah, blah, blah. But like, fine. I mean, I don't know what
the argument has to be that he was justified in being deceitful, not that he was deceitful.
Correct.
That's where we have to land on it because
correct. Yes.
That is just baseline. We know he was deceitful.
Yeah, he didn't want people to know of his choice. And if he wants to say it was my, you know, whatever, I don't know. But it was, I guess I just wasn't all that shocked. We know who Aaron Rodgers is. He's a great quarterback. And give credit to Mark Murphy, because at the time I was like, but he is a complicated fellow. And that is the nicest possible way you can say what needs to be said about Aaron Rodgers.
That has been something that I have seen on Twitter a lot over the last week is, oh yeah, it turns out Aaron Rodgers, complicated fellow for good and for ill. I mean, we love him for being complicated too. We love a lot of the decisions that he makes and the things that he shares that Russell Wilson wouldn't, and that Tom Brady wouldn't. And so, not to say you have to take the good with the bad, but the complicated parts, the layers are what makes us all human. And I do think it's important that it is okay to also say what he did for those local businesses in California, hugely impactful. Standing up for social justice, hugely impactful. It's like the Kyrie Irving thing, and like people contain multitudes, and that's okay to say a lot of this stuff is over here and there's this other stuff that's over there. Like everyone is complicated.
Yeah, my good friend Tyler Merritt says, people aren't monolithic in the sense that, like, yeah, I mean, if you can, Aaron Rodgers is just clearly not perfect. No one is, and he is. If you want to give him credit, I guess you can give him credit for, maybe the Tom Brady's and the Russell Wilsons of the world are obsessed with being perfectly polished. And Aaron Rodgers, I don't know what he's obsessed with, but clearly his desire to be right supersedes his desire to be liked in a politician Russell Wilson type of way. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Russell Wilson prioritizes saying the right things at all times. Like, and that's fine. I'm not like, we're not here to, I don't know Russell Wilson. I know people know him. He's a great guy, but he is very brand conscious. He is a politician, and Aaron Rodgers is a complicated fellow. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I mean, he's
So let's move past at least that initial thing that happened, with his status, and we don't know if he's going to be back by Saturday. You have been on this show talking about, and you and I have talked about, your excitement level for Jordan Love.
Yeah.
So that says a lot. What were your expectations of Love in this game? Because I will admit my expectations were a little too high.
Well, I think hindsight, so were mine. What I was like when we found out Aaron Rodgers got COVID, obviously my initial reaction is, from just speaking clearly football, was huge disappointment coming off an incredible high of a Cardinals win. This
Right.
team is clear. Like what's exciting, I think is still true about this team, is they seem to be galvanizing around together despite the drama. Right. And I don't know if it's, like we have a pretty veteran team. Obviously last year's ended in severe disappointment, and I think they've responded obviously well to that, the first loss, and they're really coming together, and it seems to be a close locker room, of which I think Aaron Rodgers is playing a big role in. And then you hear that and you're a huge disappointment, but then immediately it was like, you know what, shoot. And I think Andrew Brandt said it best, like, man, football wise alone, what a unique and perfect opportunity. 7-1, playing a non-conference opponent, an opponent that has a terrible defense historically. Your quarterback is, while sick, not facing major injury, and now you get a chance to take a look at your first-round draft pick. I mean, like, if you're looking for a silver lining, there was a silver lining to find, right? So I was like, well, shoot, like, here we go. I was pretty optimistic about Jordan Love, and obviously I think most of us, huge disappointment. My biggest takeaway is that, like, I don't see how after one game, and I know it's one game, and there's been a lot of conversations, and I've seen that JT O'Sullivan YouTube video out there that people are talking about. I watched that, and I think a lot of the blame goes on Matt LaFleurs. I think a lot of the blame goes on the offensive line. Despite all that, and I'm willing to say, hey, it's one game. Clearly, Kansas City was rocking. I think the fans deserve a lot of that win at Kansas City. Despite all that, I mean, the eyeball test of, like, moving on from an MVP quarterback, I don't see how they do it next year. I don't see how you're like, you know what? You couldn't get a first down off a third down until the very end of the game. You scored 7 points. Your defense played lights out.
Yeah.
And we're like, we're still going to move on from a quarterback who is playing at an MVP level for a position where that's just so hard to find. And I just don't see how they move on next year.
Well, and you know, it may not be their call, right? I mean, the after they went through what they went through in the offseason and renegotiated the contracts.
That's true.
We don't know for sure that Rodgers is going to have the power to say, I'm out, but we do know that they renegotiated it so that the Packers have to make a decision with the salary. It is either trade or extension. That's it. And you're right. I mean, at this point, we don't know. I do wonder, though. Let's say we get to Saturday and Rodgers can't go. He's symptomatic or he's not testing negative, because those are the deals. You have to be asymptomatic and you have to test negative to be back with the team. Let's say he can't do that by Saturday. Is there a level to which Jordan Love could play in this Seahawks game? And let's say Rodgers comes back and we don't see Jordan Love again until the spring, where you'd go, okay, I can see it.
He would have to play really good. And I will say this. If Rodgers can't play, and I think it's 50-50. I think people are weirdly...
I think it's less likely than people realize.
Yes. Like, it's not a sure thing. I would call it 50-50, you know?
I would too.
And I'm going to be just as optimistic as I was going into the Kansas City game. And maybe that's just the homer in me. But I think a lot of the blame is, like, you watch the protection was terrible. The game, and I like, what do I know? I'm not a coach. I didn't play quarterback. I don't call games. I don't like Monday morning quarterback. But, like, man, and Matt LaFleur said it, and I don't think it was disingenuous. I don't think it was Matt LaFleur just, like, taking one for the team. Like, I don't know why he called that game plan. I don't know if he thought maybe he had too much faith in Jordan Love. But I don't care what he thought about Jordan Love. It was still his first game. Kansas City is historically a hard stadium to play in. That crowd, you could hear how loud that crowd was from watching it on TV.
Yeah.
And you have
and
all
they blitzed him
like,
50% of the time.
Yeah, and like, I mean, you play Madden, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm sitting there being like, I know Madden isn't the same as real life football, but man, like, call a slant, call a drag. Like, why the hell wasn't like Lazard just like, the middle was wide open, and like they're running like these like 15-yard ins that like how just like run a drag, man, like just run across the field, like someone's going to be wide open. Like you have Devontae Adams, like the best slant guy in the league, and they're throwing like fades. You know, I didn't get that play call. The running game was working. Kansas City didn't stop that. So, like, I put a lot on that LaFleur. And all that being said, I do think what LaFleur has proven is that he's human. He can make mistakes, but the man may not be great at in-game adjustments, but he definitely adjusts the next game. And I think being at home will serve Jordan Love very well. I think Matt LaFleur will call a much better game plan, one that is deserving of a first-time quarterback. And I would expect Jordan Love to play a much better game. Will the defense continue to play the way it's playing? And will Russell Wilson be healthy? Or will Russell Wilson like just want to cook? I don't know. But I
hasn't cooked at Lambeau.
He hasn't cooked at Lambeau. I expect a better game from Jordan Love. But he would have to play pretty flawless for me to be like, and we talked before. I was pretty ready to be like, moving on from Aaron Rodgers, not because I didn't want to, but seeing Aaron Rodgers play this year, seeing what he did with Arizona, and then watching Jordan Love the following week, man, we have been blessed and spoiled as Packer fans for the past 30 years, and it's going to be a nightmare to move on from Aaron Rodgers, have Jordan Love play even like average, and have Aaron Rodgers just be slinging it with anybody else. That's a tough pill to swallow. And I just can't. I don't know if Goody and Mark have the guts.
I think it is also a big question if the Aaron Rodgers part of this is going to continue to be, you know, as contentious as it seemed in the offseason, because he seems to be in a much better place with it. Now, who knows if this makes things worse? Mike Sando in The Athletic talked to some executives who felt like, yeah, this is going to affect other teams wanting to trade for him.
Well, that's the thing. I was talking to my buddy this morning. I mean, if we're talking purely football and the Packers, this nonsense or this craziness with Aaron Rodgers for the past couple days, I mean, that helps the Packers. You know,
You
because
have to think.
up until this point, yeah, like everyone saw Rodgers speaking pretty positively about the front office, clearly close with his team. You know, we don't know what's going to happen with contracts and Devontae Adams, et cetera, et cetera. But like, he didn't win any friends across the league, right? And he's got a very close friend in Bakhtiari. He's got his best friend in Randall Cobb. He's got his friend in Devontae Adams, and hopefully they can work that all out. Like, where are you going to go where you're going to feel more welcomed? And if having the opportunity to play with friends and feeling connected with your teammates, then that's Green Bay, Aaron. I'm more like, what if, like, this has gotten so ugly. I think being spoofed by SNL broke Aaron Rodgers' heart in a way that we can't even fathom. And
Howard Stern said he should be kicked out of the league.
Yeah, Howard Stern. You know,
but I just mean this is hit popular culture in a way that I don't think he realized it would. Would be my guess.
That I agree. I mean, how do you go and like? It's like, how do you go if you want to take? He's talked about Joe Rogan's podcast. He said, "I listened to Joe Rogan's podcast," and then he referenced his a newfound friendship. So what it sounded like. And Aaron Rodgers, we always hear how careful he is with his words, and he chooses each word very carefully. It sounded like he's just listening to his podcast because he's a fan, got COVID. It was like, you know who I'm going to call? He's like, he DM'd Joe Rogan. And it was like, hey, bro, got COVID. Got any advice? That's what it sounded like. He didn't say, oh, I talked to Joe Rogan's doctors. Okay, if he would have said that, I'd been like, okay, I don't necessarily know what you guys are doing, but at least he talked to some doctors. He was just like, I listened to a podcast. It was nuts. It was insane. And I'm more worried about Aaron Rodgers saying, fuck, excuse my language, F it. I'm retiring. I'm done. Like, the embarrassment that he didn't expect. I'm more worried about, like, Aaron Rodgers is going off the reservation than anything else. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. But I do think winning cures all. I never thought signing Odell Beckham Jr. would be the distraction this team needs, but I think it's the distraction this team needs.
Let's go. I say let's go. You may only have 12 more games or something with Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, why not? Why not just go for it? We have to talk about the defense. If for no other reason, then I'm sure there are people sick of us talking about Aaron Rodgers. I am not moral victory guy.
It was good.
But I feel like there is an element of that just being. I know the Chiefs have not been the Chiefs. But Patrick Mahomes still plays for that team. Tyreek Hill still plays for that team. Travis Kelce still plays for that team. And Andy Reid is still calling the plays. And the defense was flying around. I can't remember the last time I felt like, okay, the defense, maybe early 2019, when it was like, oh, yeah, the defense could win them a game. And we just haven't seen that lately.
Yeah, I want to be the first to apologize to Joe Barry. I mean, I was not thrilled with that hire, and I was not kind on Twitter after game one.
You're not alone in that.
I am sorry. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think there's still, I include myself in the part of Packer fans that are still reluctant to be like, we have a good defense. Right. But I think the smell test is, like you pointed out, they play with a physicality and a type of pursuit to the football that I just don't think we have seen. They seem to be assignment sure. There's a couple times before the play you're like, oh my God, everyone looks confused. But nevertheless, you just don't see these wide open misassignments. I mean, Patrick Mahomes made a play because Sullivan, slipped, you know, and that happens. That's going to happen, man. But they played such a complete game. And I don't care who your quarterback is. Like, they shut that team down. They had like 150 yards passing in the NFL, where they're like, they're just like, hey, throw for 300 yards.
Everyone's throwing for 300 yards. Mike White is throwing for 300 yards.
Yeah, Kenny Clark didn't play. Like, we always hear these things like up into this year, it was like, oh my God, if Za'Darius gets hurt, we're really screwed. Oh my God, if if Alexander gets hurt, we're screwed. Oh my God, if Kenny Clark gets hurt, Matt LaFleur is like, I was crying on the sideline. And yet, like, for the first time in a long time, what we have is a team defense that, like, listen, they might not have their stars at times, people get hurt, but everyone knows their job. And when everyone knows their job on a defense, it's hard to move the ball. And I'm encouraged by that. And I'm super encouraged about getting these players back. It was a tough loss. I think Packer fans need to be super thankful, like, minus the loss. And you were right. You called it on Twitter a week ago, and you said, the Arizona game was maybe a game we're going to lose that we should win. And despite Jordan Love looking as ugly as it did and the pass protection looking bad, we gave up 9 points in a game we lost by 6. And so, like, you look back and you're like, man, we should have won that game.
Yeah.
It was really a bummer because, man, how crazy would it have been if Sullivan doesn't slip, we stop him on 3rd and 10, and Jordan Love has a chance to drive down the field with 2 minutes left to win that game. That would have been insane. We had, because watching it,
and he was heating up.
It felt, exactly, man. Like, oh my, that would have been real. Like, what would have happened if Jordan Love would have driven down the field?
They might have had to shut down Twitter.
I mean, like, it was just like, how do you comprehend what we just watched? It was just like, it just didn't feel like we should win the game. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, watching it, we're like, we had no business winning this game. And then you're like 10 minutes later, you're just like, wait, we lost by 6. Okay. We gave them 9 points. Like, we should have won that game. And so, like, I think that you're trying to process all that, but I'm really encouraged by getting some of these players back. And I think there's a lot, like you said, moral victories. I mean, if we get, we get these players back, I don't know what's going on with Za'Darius. They're pretty cryptic about, like, is he hurt? Is he not? Is he temperamental? I don't know. But, like, he's pretty insistent that he's going to play. And just, shoot, even if Za'Darius only plays on 3rd downs, because, like, we don't necessarily need him.
Rashawn Gary's balling.
He's balling. So, like, even if Za'Darius is there to spell him, like, man, that's a type of player that is going to be super valuable come playoff time. But I'm still optimistic. I'm a little worried about the off-field drama. I'm a little worried about Rodgers, like, completely losing his mind. Not necessarily from what he said, but like, I do not think, I don't know what he was thinking. Because regardless of what you agree with what Aaron Rodgers said or not, he definitely put himself on a limb there. He put himself
100%.
Like,
I think he expected to change hearts and minds. I really do.
Which is, like, I mean, God bless him for being that bold. But, like, you don't. Again, I'm not. Regardless of what you think of Joe Rogan, he's divisive. And so it's like again, that was shocking to me. So I was shocking that he was so honest. I was shocked that he was so honest. And so maybe he's fine with the criticism. It seems like his team is willing to, his supportive of him. And again, my hope is he just shows up, and whatever you think of what he said or did and what you like or dislike, that the team, it does. What do you think? I feel like the team really feels like they have a job to do this season. Like, I do. It feels like the team is on a mission. I mean, the players and the coach, not the front office. And, like, I do feel like this team has a F everyone else. We're here to win this together. And I think that's exciting and encouraging. And that is why I'm optimistic that we'll get through all this nonsense.
I feel that too, especially because of the way the defense plays and has been playing without all these guys. I think that is a really great point. And I think that's a great place to end this conversation for now. But we will do it again soon. Let the listeners who may not be as familiar with the Viall Files know what you're up to.
You can check me out on the Viall Files. We're here 3 days a week. If we talk a lot about relationship dynamics, and we talk a little reality TV. And if you're in that sort of thing, you'll love our show, and you can check it out anywhere you listen to podcasts. And that's about it.
Nick, awesome to talk to you, man. I appreciate it.
Good to be with you, Peter.
All right. Thanks to Nick for joining me. Love talking to Nick. And I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. let me talk to you about our friends at Get Upside. My listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill out. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and use the promo code TOUCHDOWN to get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside and get that 50 cent per gallon cash back on your first tank when you use the promo code Touchdown. You can be making $200, maybe even $300 a month in cash back if you drive a lot. And there's no catch. Just get your money. Have it put right in your bank account, PayPal, e-gifts card, Amazon, whatever you want. Download the free Get Upside app and use the promo code Touchdown to get that 50 cent per gallon cash back on your first tank. All right, we're going to be back tomorrow. Zhao Yu doing in full effect. The streak is broken, but Lily Zhao is still going to be in the building crossover Thursday and our live stream on Friday. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. And anytime you want to hit us up on the Locked On Packers fan hotline, you can do it 920-341-3775 to stay Locked On Packers.